today's session is all about working remotely with your colleagues, with partners. So WeChat communication, we're gonna break that down. How do we use WeChat? I'm a huge fan of WeChat. I have 2 WeChat accounts. One is full, another one not full yet, but working on it. So it's good to have 2 WeChat accounts if you want to have one for personal reasons or professional use. Of course, you cannot split it, but in any case, you could try. So again, wow, Nicolas, 35+ years in China. If things work with my Chinese family counts as working with China, of course it works because it's China experience. So you learn how to work with China. 𝐿𝐴 was founded in 2014, and I feel that like I'm on a talk show. No, I'm joking. So learning goals, guys. So 3 learning goals for today. So one is the basics of WeChat communication for the personal user. So this is mostly communication and networking. Number 2, communication and culture. We're gonna go over the team culture map, which is a framework by Erin Meyer, and see how we can apply that when we work with our Chinese partners. Again, culture is something very complex and very fluid, so it changes all the time. And the culture of young Chinese is not the same as the culture of the, I don't know, 40+ years old Chinese, or Chinese who studied abroad, or Chinese who never left China. So again, take tips with culture with a pinch of salt and keep your mind open and try to be empathetic. So the key is empathy. And then number 3, we're gonna go over some collaboration tools and platforms that I use in China, and I hope to hear from you, from your own experience. What kind of tools do you use in China, and how do you overcome the Great Firewall of China? So quick word about me. I did my bachelor's in the UK. I studied economics. After that, I came straight to China. I know something that I advise you to do. Things are not very easy for young graduates with no work experience in China, but if you get creative, things might work out. I studied Chinese at 𝐲𝐵E. That's when the idea of BeHive came up, actually. That's when we started doing events 4 years ago. I did a couple of internships, one at a huge conglomerate, which today doesn't exist. That's H&A. That was in the finance department. And I also did an internship at 𝐲𝐢𝐭𝐡, which is a Chinese tech startup, where I was the only foreign employee, and I was introduced in the Chinese culture. And again, that was a startup culture. So startup and corporate culture is not the same, but you get to learn a lot of the same. So right now, I run BeHive, a training organization in Beijing and Shanghai. We started as a community organization, and now we're in transition. We're building a platform with a website, and we're working with different universities to help them develop the potential of their students. At the same time, I consult different organizations, such as the Chamber of Commerce, Volkswagen, and other companies in the fields of leadership, youth leadership, corporate innovation, and WeChat marketing. So if you want to ask at my WeChat ID, it's there, you can scan it. And yes, if you want to work with China, but you haven't started using WeChat yet, then I highly encourage you to start using it. Very, very important. So normally we do offline events, team building sessions, delivering to universities, working with LinkedIn, doing big and small events alike. But since last year, we've been doing most of the things online. This is a training with the United Nations and Tsinghua. So hence remote work and remote training. So today, again, it's all about remote work with Chinese employees or partners. So these partners could be Chinese or non-Chinese, but they're based in China. So there are some restrictions when it comes to the internet or the way that people do things. So first we start with WeChat communication. So again, please do type your comments and questions in the chat box, and I'll be reading them out loud, and so that we can all have kind of like a conversation. So, and also feel free to unmute yourselves and engage in the conversation. So Nicolas agrees, the local market is getting more challenging for foreigners, including young professionals. As for international talent, is there a bigger opportunity now working with China from overseas as opposed to being in China? Yeah, I agree that working with China is there's huge opportunity working with China remotely right now, since there are not many internationals in China. But at the same time, there's more competition of foreigners working with China online. So you really have to understand the local market and be able to use the tools and techniques that we will discuss today. And hopefully we're gonna get to learn some more things with you. So again, for the past year and a half, I've been working remotely with China, with my colleagues in Beijing, in Shanghai, using a lot of different platforms, and especially WeChat. So I had a meeting the other day with a university, the career development department of a Chinese university, and we used, of course, WeChat to communicate. But of course, it's not just WeChat. There's much more to learn about remote work in China, but we're gonna start with WeChat. Is there any equivalent to Slack for China? So I still use Slack, even though I'm outside of China. I have Chinese colleagues and they also use Slack. So Slack works most of the time, but a good equivalent to Slack would be Lark. Lark is a collaboration tool that was developed by ByteDance, which is the same company that created TikTok and Douyin. So you can check out Lark for something similar to Slack. But if anyone in the audience has any recommendations, you can type them there as well. Great. So WeChat is very, very important in Chinese society. So I'm just going to introduce that to you, since that's the app that you're going to be mostly using if you're working with China in any capacity. So a typical WeChat user engages 11 separate times per day with the app. And that's not an exaggeration. It's probably much, much more. So let's say you live in China, you might be Chinese, you might be foreign, it doesn't matter. You wake up, you check your WeChat, then you might go to work. You're gonna use WeChat to get Didi. So Didi is the equivalent of Uber in China. So you use the app to get a taxi. Then you might buy breakfast using WeChat Pay. So, just 扫一扫, and then you buy your 煎饼 or something, I don't know. Then you go to work. If your work has to do with marketing, or maybe you organize events, or maybe you engage with different collaborations with different partners, then it means that you have a lot of WeChat groups on WeChat. And that's how you keep in touch with a lot of people at the same time. So you might have a group chat with different companies. For example, us with BeHive, we have a group chat with 𝐿𝐴, and it's like BeHive x 𝐿𝐴. Or we might have a collaboration, like a group chat with the UN. So it's BeHive x UN, like a different group chat with different group members. So you have to keep in mind that there might be some messages. So again, WeChat, very, very important. You use it throughout the day for many different reasons, either to chit chat, either to do marketing. So people no longer have business cards. You just show them your WeChat and people scan your QR code to connect. So again, this is important when you have a business meeting online with a Chinese partner. Very important to ask them whether they have WeChat, and so that you connect with them. Actually, you could even connect with me on the spot right now. So if I go to my WeChat right now, you can ask them, hey, can you show me your WeChat ID? And then you could just scan it through Zoom. So let's say you're having a Zoom meeting. You can ask people to either scan you or you scan them. 都可以, both are acceptable. But keep in mind, WeChat is a great way to connect with them. So WeChat, social interaction, marketing, payment, and accessing different types of information. So again, WeChat is a whole ecosystem of apps. It's not just Messenger, where you just kind of like interact with your friends and you send emojis and memes. It's more like a way to use the internet as a whole, because within WeChat there are different apps, mini apps, that allow you to do a lot of different things, which we will see later in the presentation. So when you introduce yourself on WeChat, very, very important not to waste anyone's. Thank you, Karma, for sharing Lark Suit. You can check out Lark there. So when you introduce yourself on WeChat. Very, very important not to waste people's time. So when you try to interact with partners in China, then it's very important to not waste your people's time. So in this occasion, I connected with the founder of this was a Pakistani place that we really love. It was a restaurant that we wanted to work with. So first you introduce yourself, you say, hi, good to connect. My name is this, and I do this, and I'm reaching out to explore this possibility of working with you. This is Tiffin, actually. I'm not sure if anyone knows Tiffin, but if you're based in Beijing, you probably know Tiffin. I'm sure that Kaha knows Tiffin, right? Okay. So when you choose people on WeChat, then it's very important to introduce each other. So let's say you already have a couple of partners in China and you want to introduce each other to WeChat. You have to remember that people on WeChat don't always use their real name, and sometimes they only use their Chinese name. So sometimes you have to include the Chinese name of the English name of the people. For example, you can see here on the group chat, I tagged here 𝐿𝐴𝐻, and then I typed Dr. Dennis manually. But then later on, when Ruby tagged Dr. Dennis, then she could only see 𝐿𝐴𝐻. So this means that even though on my WeChat I see the name of this guy, which is Dr. Dennis, Ruby, which is the person I'm trying to connect with, Dennis, only sees 𝐿𝐴𝐻. So 𝐿𝐴𝐻 maybe is the name of the company, maybe it's a newspaper. So you have to make sure to rename people when you meet them online. So let's say Kaha doesn't have his real name. Maybe his name on WeChat is 𝐲𝐴𝐿𝐵. So after you connect, 𝐲𝐴𝐿𝐵 means handsome guy in Chinese. So after you connect with Kaha on WeChat, you have to rename him to Kaha from 𝐸𝐴𝐿, Kaha from whatever. So, and then when you connect Kaha or you introduce Kaha to other people, you have to, tag him. So it's gonna write there 𝐲𝐴𝐿𝐵, and then you can add Kaha in brackets so that the person knows who they're talking to. So again, you introduce person A to person B, you explain why you made the group. And then when you use the translation tool of WeChat, you have to be careful because the translation is not always 100% correct. So you'll be interacting with Chinese people, maybe it's Chinese suppliers, maybe it's Chinese partners, anyone. So when you use the translation, maybe because you don't speak Chinese, I would highly encourage you to be skeptical and not just accept the translation, because many times it's incorrect and inaccurate. I'm sure that Kaha experienced this in earlier times when he was only learning Chinese. Yes, it's a very small world. So
still experiencing sometimes.
all of us, because it's just, sometimes it's just太累了. It's very tiring to just try to understand the Chinese paragraph that someone sends. You get lazy and you just press translate, and then you see kind of weird stuff that don't make sense. But
hi. Hello,
hey.
Petros.
Yes,
how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Tez here. I'm
good.
Hey, Tez. You are absolutely correct to say that the translation function in the WeChat is not totally accurate. Yeah, and what I would suggest is that you can read it with a pinch of salt, but if it is something that is very important, then you take the trouble to actually go to Google Translate or Baidu Translate or something to get the essence of it.
Yes, going to Baidu. Thank you, Tez. So going to Baidu or using other translation tools is also useful. Actually, if you're learning Chinese, you're probably aware of an app called Pleco. If you do not know the app, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's called Pleco. So Pleco is a tool that you can use to learn Chinese, but also you can, yes, Kaha knows. So you can copy paste the text on the on the bar chart that they have here for Pleco, and then it kind of translates every character as a pinyin. So you learn Chinese and you understand better what they say at the same time. Also, for example, you might have a piece of paper that has Chinese on it. You can take a picture of it, and then there's a character reader, and it kind of reads every character on its own. So again, very, very useful. I'd encourage you, Pleco, very super useful. I highly encourage you to get the extra version, which is the pro version, which is like around $10, and you can use it for life, but it's very, 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 very useful. And other than that, another tool that I would highly recommend, this is my previous company, but I am not being paid for this or anything. It's just because it's an amazing tool for you to use. It's LingoCloud. And actually, you can take a document, a Chinese PDF, upload it on their website, and then you get the Chinese translation or the English translation. So also very, very useful to translate documents. lingocloud.com. You can check it out later. Sam here is here to connect. He's from Nanjing, from Pakistan. He's the co-founder and CEO of Infinity, and they focus on smart technologies and early stage startup. Their team has 7 people. If you wanna connect with Sam, he's here in the group chat. So I would highly encourage you, everyone, to add your WeChat, I guess WeChat name next to your. Let me see. So let's say you have your WeChat name, right? You can add your WeChat. Let me add it. Petros Jack. So you can add your WeChat in brackets. For example, my WeChat ID is Petros Jack. So if you want to connect with me later, you can just add that on WeChat. I also would highly encourage everyone to do the same so that you connect. Amazing. So let's go next one. So if you work with China or live in China, you will eventually be added to a lot of different WeChat groups that can be a pain, but are a crucial tool or a crucial way to connect with people in China, to promote your products, but also communicate remotely with your Chinese colleagues and partners. So here we have a lot of different WeChat groups that we use either for communication or for marketing purposes. And then every WeChat group has different communication rules. So again, if you are in China, you will also have your own rules. So you have to make sure to check the rules. For example, this is one of our WeChat groups. And if you, after you join a WeChat group, you can check the group notice, and you can see a description of this different of this group. For example, every company, every organization has its own WeChat groups in China. So you have to check the reason that they have this WeChat group, what kind of content you're allowed to share in there, and then see what kind of rules they have. And also there is an alias in the group that you can change. So very, very important if you're trying to get leads in China, or if you want to build your brand in China, very important to change your alias in the group. So let's say if 𝐤𝐤's name on WeChat is 𝐲𝐵, then for every WeChat group, he can change it. So let's say 𝐤𝐤 now has two projects, right? One is 𝐸𝐴, that's his full-time job. But at the same time, he is trying to build a startup called, what's the name of your startup, 𝐤𝐤? For example, give us an example.
BeHive AI.
BeHive AI. So let's say we have 𝐤𝐤, he has two roles. One is one is 𝐸𝐴, another one is BeHive AI, right? So in certain group chats, he's gonna use 𝐸𝐴, and some group chats he's gonna use BeHive AI, because in different companies or in different groups, he wants to promote a different brand for himself. So you can change your alias in each group and adjust it to the group, let's say, purpose. So let's say if in one company you're working with them through your full-time job 𝐸𝐴, then you use 𝐸𝐴. If in another group you're just trying to build leads for your startup that you just started, then you use a different name. Great. So very, very important when you connect with people on WeChat, either offline or online, you have to ask them to either scan you or you scan them. When you meet people in person or online, I highly encourage you to show your QR code. So the idea is that they scan you. Any China veterans here to tell us why? Why should we ask people to scan us instead of the opposite?
Because they cannot accept you. And if they scan you, then you have the power to accept them or not.
That's true, but I think over and above that, I think the power to accept or not, I think if you, personally, I think if you ask somebody to scan you, I think to do courtesy, you should accept anybody that does that. For me, I usually like people to scan my code, because what that gives me is that I have a record of the people that have added me. Because in the add friends, the new friends function, you can actually only see when people add you when somebody scans your code. I'm not sure if that's the answer that Petros is looking for.
Yes, yes. Actually, when you remember, so for everyone who's new into China, there's a word, guanxi. So guanxi means connection, relations. And WeChat is a very, very important tool to create guanxi. And these guanxi go through the years. And as Terence mentioned, by the way, Terence has more than 25 years of experience in business, lawyer, investment consultant, based in Beijing, in China. For how long, Tez?
9 years in Beijing, 3 years in Shenyang, 3 years in the US, and the rest around the Asia Pacific.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Tez, for joining us. Your insights and experience are super, super valuable for us. And whenever you have something to add, please do. As Tez mentioned, when they scan you, you get the invitation, right? So when you get the invitation, you also know when they sent the invitation. So it's important for you not to let them wait for too long. At least, I would say the maximum 1 to 2 days. But the idea is that if you go to an event in China and you meet a lot of people at the same time, you might have 20 friend requests on WeChat. Before you accept these people on WeChat, you have to be ready to send them a nice to meet you note. You have to be ready to add the add a note on where you met them. So if you're not ready to add that, if you're not ready to send them a nice to meet you note, so let's say today I met Kaha online, right? If I'm not ready to send him this sentence, hi Kaha, it was nice to meet you today at the remote work training by 𝐸𝐸. And if I add also that he works at 𝐸𝐸 as a tag, because WeChat has different tags that you can classify your contacts. If you cannot do these two things, then it's better to wait 1 or 2 days. And when you're ready, then you can accept all of them and send everyone this nice to meet you note. Because if you don't do this, you will not remember them, and you might not be able to keep in touch with them because you don't remember who they are and how you met them. Very, very important, because for example, right now BeHive is hiring an intern, and actually I messaged people that I met in 2018, and I met these people 3 years ago, but because I added the nice to meet you note, and I also have the tag, I know, for example, that this person, I met them at the business event. I know that they used to study at Renmin University, so I know that these people might have access to a network of people that I need. So very important to add a tag and classify your contacts in order to make use of this relationship, and also you know how to add value to them as well. Scanning is more polite form of connecting. If you wait too long, the friend request can expire. Yes, so this goes both ways. So when it's someone is your age, or maybe they are your level of seniority, then it's okay for you to tell them to scan you. If they are older, if they are more senior, and if they are maybe super famous or whatever, maybe they would not be willing to scan you. So keep that in mind. They will tell you to scan them because they want to be in control of the game and they don't want to connect with everyone. So they will ask you to scan them so that they control whether they connect with you or not. So sometimes when you interact with older people, then they might ask you to scan them, and that's also okay. But when you interact with younger people or people of your own level, then it's okay to tell them to scan you. Just an inside tip. So this again are the tags that I mentioned. So when you connect with people online and you're trying to build partners, important to remember how you met them. For example, these people I met at the church. So I remember, okay, I met Kaha at the church. What a nice guy. I see him every Sunday. So again, this also depends on where you met them. So maybe you met them through an event, or maybe it's a group of people, or maybe you can add their country. So let's say this person comes from 𝐬𝐤, so they're American, or these people come from Italy. So this is a way to remember people. And then number two, when you meet people online or offline in China, they won't have a profile picture. So let's say I met Helena here and she had a picture of I don't know, this is a factory or something. So I took a picture with her on the spot. So Helena is the person in the middle. So I always take a selfie with people on the spot if they don't have a background photo. So if you're having a Zoom meeting with them, you could take a screenshot with them at the end of the meeting and tell them, is it okay if I take a screenshot of this of us, and then you can take that screenshot from Zoom and add it on WeChat so that you can remember their face. So remember, face is very, very important. And many times people don't have their face on WeChat, so it's very hard for you to remember them. But you can take the screenshot and change the background of the conversation. So just a quick recap for WeChat. WeChat is everywhere, used for everything. So if you want to work with Chinese people or partners remotely, WeChat is one of the best ways. Remember your groups, remember to make introductions, and remember to network properly and categorize, and remember your contacts. Do we have anything to add for WeChat, or any questions about how to use WeChat?
Just a quick one.
Yes.
Don't try to be too over eager to get too many contacts at an event that you attend, because at the end of the day, you have to be very clear to know what is your purpose to go to the event. I would suggest that you add no more than 2 or 3 people, because if you add like 20 people, you are just digging a hole for yourself, because you'll be distracted and you will have no idea who can help you. So make sure you know exactly who are the key people that you want to add, and just add that 1 or 2 person, no more than 3.
Thank you, Tez. Yes, of course, quality or quantity. So when you're trying to find an employee or a partner in China, or leads, or anything you might be looking for, it's important to connect with the right people instead of just people. In the beginning, you can just practice and see how it works, but eventually,
yes,
you just need to focus on the people who are going to be useful to
yes,
you in your work, or the people that you will be able to help. So potential clients or potential team members or community members, it depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Petros just hit the nail on the head. It's what you try to achieve. So if you have already had your purpose, or you know what you're going to do, then yeah, by all means, just I mean, just add 1 or 2 people. But if you're trying to build your network, you are new, then add as many people as you want, because you have to know what you want to do and what value you want to derive out of that event that you're attending.
Exactly, and it's only through trial and error, and through projects, through meeting people, through finding mentors. That's how you learn and you get closer to what you want to achieve, like your why, right? So it depends on your why. So let's say you're running an AI startup, right? And maybe you're based in Korea right now, and you want to find Chinese investors. It's not going to be easy to find Chinese investors online through WeChat groups or through, just like public advertising. You have to connect with them in an intimate way. You have to connect with them in person. You have to have a lot of meetings with them. Maybe it's a video call, but eventually you will have to meet them in person, right? So the 𝐸𝐭𝐡 is strong only if you meet them in person. So you cannot expect to receive investment or seal get like million RMB contracts just with video calls. You have to at least have had some meetings with them in the past. I'm not sure if people agree with me on this. Maybe due to COVID, companies are more willing to invest and to work with people just online. But I think eventually you will have to meet them in person. 𝐸𝐭𝐻, what is your experience from 𝐸𝐴?
Yeah, we're in China, so we still have the offline part that didn't really change. But the truth is that everything that needed the real contact, all the international things, they got much slower. So there's definitely a factor in that.
Yep, and with that, we move to the culture part. So when we communicate with people online or offline, there's always the cultural element. So the culture is a lot of different things, but long story short, it's something that is accepted and familiar. So let's say you have the Chinese culture, you have the Cypriot culture, you have the Korean culture, you have the Georgian culture, you have a lot of different cultures, right? So all of these are unwritten rules on how we do things. And these—
You left out my Malaysian culture.
Malaysian culture, everything, all cultures, right? So, but long story short, so it's a lens through which we see the world. So without being too strict about it, too fixed about it, there are many rules that are unwritten, and these are things that we don't control. So maybe they're part of our DNA, maybe it's part of how we grow up, where we grew up. In any way, it's many, many different things. So behaviors, beliefs, values, and thought patterns. So these are things that we see or do not see. So we can only see the behavior, for example, of our Chinese partners or partners in China. So these are the things that we see. There are things that we're thinking, we're feeling, we believe, and then our values and thought patterns. I'm not going to delve into this too long, but there are many things that are under the surface and that we don't really see. So from all of this iceberg, we can only see the behavior. So we cannot just understand the people from their behavior. We can also see their background. So, and again, everyone is different. So for example, Chinese who have studied in the US and are married to a foreigner are going to have a different cultural perspective of traditional Chinese who never left China. And it's the same for, let's say, foreigners in China, foreigners overseas, and then foreigners who have international experience. So take everything with a pinch of salt. So if you want to understand culture better and improve your communication with Chinese partners, I highly recommend that you check out this book. It's called The Culture Map by 𝐸𝐿 Long story short, so Culture Map, 𝐸𝐿 I will share this slide. I will share this presentation with everyone who attended the event. So 𝐸𝐿, I'm not sure if we have a group chat for the event, but we could create a group chat at the end of the session. Maybe you can create the group chat now and share it in your presentation at the end, 𝐸𝐿. So I'll be sharing this presentation with everyone here, but for the sake of time, I will skip through it. So culture has a lot of different scales, but we will focus on the communication scale for now. So we have low context and high context. So low context means that you use simple and clear language, while high context, it has a lot of meaning in the way you interact. Is more indirect and you have a lot of information. So different cultures are on different scales. For example, China is high context, while the Germany is low context. So that means that the Chinese might say something, but there are a lot of other things that they mean through their body language. while the Germans might be more direct and might tell you, okay, this is what I mean, this is what I want. Of course, this changes through time and through the generations. So I think that Chinese youth right now is much more low context than 30 years ago. So again, this is something that talks about China or like countries as a whole, but keep in mind that some people have unique experiences. So take every partner and every colleague as a unique case and keep in mind their experience. Don't take the kind of like stereotypes in mind. But again, in high context cultures, we would see that on Starbucks, it's implied that this is a hot beverage. So, you know, be careful, right? You're not stupid. So that's what they imply. But then in a low context society, they would, you know, nothing is implied. We have to spell out everything for them. So they write on the beverage, you know, caution, this beverage might be hot, so take care when using it. So again, high context, things are implied. This beverage is hot, you know, take care. Don't drink it too fast. And then low context, we explain everything just to make sure that there is no misunderstanding. When the Chinese, so again, this is like a stereotype, I would say, for the Chinese culture as a whole. So when Chinese vaguely express an idea or opinion, the real message can be just implied, and they expect you, the partner, to be highly involved and to take an active role in kind of making sense of what they say and also creating meaning together. So in Chinese culture, 旁敲侧击, which means beating around the bush, is a style that nurtures an implicit understanding. In Chinese culture, children are not taught just to hear the explicit words, but focus on how something is said and not just on what is said. So I think we have some Chinese colleagues here. Maybe you can add something on this. Wendy, would you like to add anything on this?
Hello, here is Emilio from NOA. And
hi, Emilio.
Yes, yeah. So you are quite right on the sense that we don't usually say all the things very explicitly because NOA works with government a lot. I'm not quite sure whether it's the same for Korean government or not, because I have worked with Korean government as well in the international forum. In that forum, it's very international and very explicit, that everyone express their ideas very clearly. But usually there's your partner or your client assumes that you know many things about them. So they assume that there are many background information are no need to be expressed. And they are usually not willing to do so. So if you, it is from my experiences of collaborating with the Chinese government. So usually we need to guess. So what is the core KPIs of this department? How my solutions or how my proposals could fit their KPIs. And it is especially significant for some hierarchy person in the government. They don't really tell you why not. They only respond when your solutions fit their needs. Say it's okay, and they will never say it is not okay. They will say something else, like it could be more changes, you need more studies, but usually it means no. And usually they don't tell you why no. So it is very difficult, but during their expression of their jobs, you can find some cues on what is their core thinkings, is their KPIs, what do they want. So it is quite a difficult and complicated ways, but bear in mind of this kind of ideologies, and it's actually not that difficult.
And I'll just add a little bit to that. I think what Emilio, is it? Was that Emilio just now from InnoWay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think sometimes why the higher level people in the state organs or governmental or SOEs or whatever, when they, well, you know, if they're willing to talk to you, it's a good start. But when you are faced with uncertainty, I think Emilio, you said when they say no, Not necessarily so. I think from my experience of 12 years total in China, about 7 years ago in 2016, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were approached by a very big China SOE to help them to bring their business to Malaysia. Well, have we done that successfully? No, not yet. Yeah, but we always keep the door open, and I don't take no as the final answer. I stay in touch. Sometimes there are festivals in China, so you take that opportunity to just wish them like Happy Chinese New Year. Or next week, if for some of you who might not know, on Tuesday, June the 14th is a Dragon Boat Festival. So if you have Chinese people, just send a note to say, hey, Happy Dragon Boat Festival, and you are staying in touch. Yeah. And coming back to my case, 5 years ago, we were approached by this very big China SOE. And we had one meeting. I only had one meeting with that general manager, one. It was a good meeting, but then nothing has changed. Nothing moved on, but we stayed in touch. And recently, he suddenly pops out of nowhere and say, hey, can we meet up? So we have no contact whatsoever for 5 years. And then suddenly he pops up and say, hey, can we have a cup of coffee? That means probably he would have noticed. We exchange WeChat, so WeChat is very important. So probably he has noticed some changes and he's ready to take the next step. So don't ever take no as the final answer. I would say a better way to phrase it would be, wait, there must be something that has interested this guy. And they are so vague because they want you to prove what you can bring to the table before they go the next step.
Yes, very, very important to keep in touch with your partners and friends on WeChat. So even if you think that people are not watching you, they're always watching you. So WeChat is a great way to keep in touch with them and, you know, make sure they remember you, who you are and what you do. So you are always under people's radar. Maybe even if they don't message you back, they always see your moments and they see what you've been working on. So they have you in mind. They're like, okay, maybe I can work with Tez in that project. And then they will message you after, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or whatever. And you're like, oh my goodness, we haven't spoken in such a long time. But yes, of course, please keep in touch with your Chinese partners. You know, whenever there's a holiday or whatever, you can send them happy 端午节, happy you know, Chinese Spring Festival, and this goes for all partners. So have a reason to connect with them. So because we were running out of time, let's go through this session. I would like Caja to be Mr. Schmidt, and then I would like Esteban to be Mr. Lee. So let's read out the dialogue.
Mr. Lee, are you ready?
So Mr. Schmidt is the manager, he's German, and Mr. Lee is the employee, he's Chinese. Let's go.
Okay, hello. It looks like some of us are going to have to be here on Sunday to host the client visit.
I see.
Can you join us on Sunday?
Yes, I think so.
That would be great help.
Yes, Sunday is an important day.
In what way?
It's my daughter's birthday.
How nice. I hope you all enjoy it.
Thank you. I appreciate your understanding.
Thank you, guys. That was marvelous. Give yourselves a warm round of applause. I even used the German accent. Okay, so this is an example of a miscommunication or communication. What do you guys think? Let's have someone who didn't participate so far. What do you guys think? What's happening? Is Mr. Lee going to the meeting on Sunday? Is Mr. Schmidt expecting Mr. Lee to go on Sunday? What's happening? Maybe let's have Esteban again. Esteban, what do you think?
So
No,
it seems that Mr. Lee has made his point. I think Mr. Schmidt has not really caught on. Mr. Lee is showing that he has a very important event coming up and very clearly that he will not attend. Even though he has the goodwill of attending, it's clear that he will not.
Great. Anyone else? Any comments?
Yeah, basically, even though Mr. Lee doesn't want to do that, he doesn't say directly no. It's like, maybe think so, and then indirectly shows that it's actually some important day in his life.
But is he going, Kaha? Is Mr. Lee going to the client meeting?
I think that actually it's unclear if Mr. Schmidt understands this. I'm not sure. I think it's missing one more message in the end.
Based on this communication, though, we see that Mr. Lee is not going, right?
Yeah, seems so. He thanked
Yeah.
for understanding.
But Mr. Schmidt is expecting him to go. So this is a very common miscommunication that you will encounter in China. So make sure to make things crystal clear when agreeing on a contract or when agreeing on meeting or anything. So because there are many things that are implied. So here, Mr. Lee implies that, there's no chance I'm gonna come. It's my daughter's birthday. I cannot make it. But he doesn't say I'm not coming. He said, thank you for understanding. And then Mr. Schmidt is like, cool. I know it's your daughter's birthday, but we have a client visit coming. So he expects Mr. Lee to be there on Sunday. So this is a very common example of miscommunication. So when we work with multicultural teams, then we have to use low context processes. So make sure that everything is clear and there are processes. We have to create ground rules to minimize misunderstanding and have a process to work together. So when you have high context and low context people working together, then you have to use low context communication to make sure there's nothing implied or misperceived, and also put everything in writing to make sure people get it. So another example with WeChat and cultural sensitivity. So on WeChat, it's important not to lose face. So this is part of culture. You might message someone on WeChat, they might never reply, or the opposite. So WeChat does not have a red notification. So you don't know whether the person read the message or not. And this is a way for people to save face. So if you see that the person has read the message, but they don't reply back, then you might lose face. So WeChat does not have this feature, as the WeChat creator mentioned, to go along the lines of Chinese culture. So they do this because it's they say that they value users' privacy and don't want to add pressure to users to respond to messages that they have read, but maybe they don't want to reply to. And another thing is that you need to keep in mind is red packets. So if you do have a Chinese bank account, I highly encourage you to send red packets on holidays or when you send a notification in a WeChat group, just to make sure to get engagement, to show that the Chinese tradition of hongbao. So hongbao 很重要. And then really quickly, collaboration tools you cannot use in China. Say goodbye to Google unless you have a VPN. You cannot really use all of these amazing tools. So you have to use different tools. These are some of the tools that I have used in the past, but I'm sure that you have used other tools as well. Feel free to type more recommendations in the group chat. Yes, Sam, I'll be sharing the presentation. So 𝐲𝐶 is kind of like live documents, super useful only in Chinese though. Baidu Pan is kind of like Google Drive, and you can use it to share documents and save information. Airtable works well in China most times. So again, here I typed collaboration tools that you can mostly use in China. So sometimes these tools will not use, so you will not work in China. So Airtable, Slack, and Amazon Cloud, Amazon Web Services sometimes are slow or don't work well in China. So keep that in mind. So if you are working with Chinese partners, or let's say you have Chinese colleagues in China, you might need to empower them with VPN. It's okay to say that, Kaha, right? So Airtable, Slack, and AWS sometimes need a VPN to work. So keep that in mind. Trello, I think works mostly without a VPN. So Airtable, Slack, and Trello are all collaboration tools that are used for different purposes. Airtable is more like a live Excel sheet that you can use to organize calendars, social media posts, and a lot of, or maybe it can be used for like a live Excel sheet to save people's information. Slack is more like a communication tool. Also, it can be used for sharing data and you know, creating different channels for different projects within your company. Trello is more like a list of lists, and you can see what is being done, what is in progress, and you can add different. It's a more visual collaboration tool, which I highly encourage you to check out. Of course, there are many alternatives. Monday.com, many others that I haven't used, but you can try and see what works well for your company. So AWS, again, sometimes it's very, very slow in China. Highly encourage you to have 𝐤𝐢𝐭𝐡, Alibaba Cloud, for sharing maybe big files such as videos or documents that you want to have. If you are a tech guy, then you probably know this much better than I, so I'm not going to talk about the tech side of things. And then again, LinkedIn is a great way to communicate with people in China because it's not blocked. So you can use WeChat and LinkedIn for your outreach strategy. On LinkedIn in China, videos do not work. So if you do not have engagement on your company's videos and stuff on LinkedIn in China, then you have to know that it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And also video call on LinkedIn, again, doesn't work probably in China. So keep that in mind. Communication tools that I have used in the past, mostly WeChat video call, that's your best friend. But also Tencent Meeting, which you can download. It's called VOOV. This works on your phone, works on your computer most times. And also DingDing is also very popular. I haven't used DingDing, but it's very, very popular for employees in different Chinese companies to use. So highly encourage you to get to know WeChat video call and Tencent video call at least. And again, mini programs are your best friend in China. So again, mini programs are apps within apps, websites within websites. So for example, the first one here is Tengxun Topiao. So it's just like for votes, you might want to run a survey. And again, the Wenxun Xing, the what was it in Chinese, in English? Anyway, all of these different apps are very, very useful for you to use either for your company, within your company, or when you have an outreach strategy and you want to collect information on different people. So again, check out WeChat mini apps, and the way to find the mini apps, you go to your WeChat homepage and you pull it down, and then you see all of those mini apps. So you just pull it down on the homepage of WeChat. That's it from me. I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but if you would like to know more about what we do, BeHive, we focus mostly on communication, skills training, professional development, And we work with organizations and universities that either need training for their young people in China, or they need help with recruiting. Then you can reach out to us. And I focus mostly on WeChat marketing training, corporate innovation, leadership for youth. You can also scan my QR code. And if you would like more information on how to work with people remotely, here's my QR code. And yeah, that's it from me today.